it may not feel like it, but hurricane season just around the corner.
We are getting there, less than 2 months away now. We got a brand new forecast yesterday for the 2025 hurricane season from meteorologists at Colorado State University. It's an annual forecast, and Brooks, of course, went through all the numbers. He joins us in the Weather Center with more. Hi, Brooks.
Good morning. Well, Colorado State University has been doing this for over 40 years. They were the first forecast organization to issue a seasonal hurricane forecast. Long story short, the professor who started the program was in the military, stationed in the Eastern Atlantic, studying hurricanes, and when he left the military and entered academia, he started a department, happened to be at Colorado State University, studying the tropical Atlantic and hurricanes, and created this system, which has now been used by industry professionals, emergency managers, residents trying to weigh the risks, as well as supply chain lines, trying to figure out where they need to put resources. Is it going to be a busy season or not? This year will be a busy season. Above normal is the forecast by Colorado State University, with 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 4 major hurricanes. That's a couple of systems more than we typically see, but a little bit slower than last season. That said, even in the slowest hurricane season, it's not a matter of how many storms you have, it's if you get hit by one. And this season is of note because the overall ocean pattern may steer some of those storms closer to land. So let's bring in Angelie Nieves Jiménez from the Colorado State University forecasting team. Good morning. You've worked with Dr. Phil Klotzbach and the whole team to come up with this forecast. Really appreciate you joining us this morning with this interview. What are some of the takeaways from this busier than normal season? What are some of the contributing factors to make it yet another busy season? And let me just add, you guys nailed the forecast last year. Good job.
Thank you for having me. It is always really exciting to be here. So this year we're looking at the 2 main factors, which are the sea surface temperatures that we're seeing in the Atlantic at this moment. And we also take a look at the ENSO state, or El Nino, La Nina, or neutral base state. And in this year specifically, La Nina is weakening, and that will be a transition towards neutral. And La Nina and neutral states do benefit the Atlantic activity, the Atlantic hurricane activity. So that is what we have, and that with the warmer sea surface temperatures are going to be favorable.
So the warm sea surface temperatures are still there. That's the fuel for the fire, the gasoline, if you will, for the engine. And you mentioned this El Nino Southern Oscillation, the ENSO, and that's the warming, the cooling, or the declaration of everything being normal down there in the eastern equatorial Pacific off of Ecuador. And a lot of people are thinking, well, why would the ocean temperature off of Ecuador in the Pacific influence the Atlantic hurricane season? And it's all about the wind. Can you tell us about the wind in an El Nino versus a La Nina? You mentioned that we're kind of going to be in the middle this year.
Yeah, so I will talk a little bit of how it influences the Atlantic. But when we are in a La Nina or in a neutral state in the Pacific, it all affects the steering patterns and the winds and the circulations down here in the Atlantic. It is far, but it does influence. So it tends to weaken the Azores high, or the subtropical high that we have in the Atlantic. And this weakens what we have, or what we know as the trade winds, or those strong winds that are affecting the Atlantic, which they tend to weaken or disrupt the hurricanes as they make their way from Africa, that way that makes its way from Africa towards the U.S. But this year, since that high tends to be weakening, we can see those strong waves coming out of the coast of Africa to make its way closer to the U.S. and recurve closer to Florida.
Okay, so that's significant. So with lower trade winds, we can get systems that will form, but more applicably to where these systems go during a neutral season when the water temperature off of Ecuador is kind of normal, that tends to steer these systems closer to Florida potentially, right?
Correct. And we saw last year, an example is when we had the La Nina-based state, Florida was impacted with 3 major hurricanes, which is a high number.
That's significant. And I noticed is specific in the Colorado State University forecast that our coastline here on the Atlantic side of Florida, specifically Flagler, Volusia, and Brevard, stand about a 5% higher chance of experiencing a hurricane this year than in a typical year.
Correct. And one of the predictors that we also look at, and one of our main parameters, is tracking storms and there are accumulated cyclone energy west of 60 degrees. And in this year, we have an ACE of 93 west of 60, which that is higher than normal.
All right, so accumulated cyclone energy, warmer than normal temperatures, steering currents that might take it to Florida. Angelie Nieves Jiménez from Colorado State University. You're not painting a very optimistic picture, but we can't make that choice either. We appreciate the prognostication.
It just takes one.
It just takes one. Well, we appreciate the forecast, and that's what we need to prepare. If we know it's coming, we can at least psychologically get ready for it. We're a little less than 2 months away from the hurricane season, and we'll look for your updated Colorado State University come mid-June with the latest. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Rex.
All right, that's the latest. So Amy and Ryan, it is going to be a busy season. Back to you.
All right, fingers crossed that it's not.
Yes.
We're going to wish for the other way.